Hey everybody, I am Pastor Rob Lloyd and this is the South Edmiston Community Church. Today we're going to be in 2 Kings chapter 2 and in 1 Kings chapter 3. We're going to be asking a question. And think about it, if you were asked this question. You could have anything given to you in the world, what would it be? Two different people were asked that very question. What do you want? What can I do for you? And it's interesting the answer they gave. So stick around. I hope you enjoy the video, and if you do, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you have not already, and hit that bell notification so you know when we upload these videos a couple times a week. Again, thanks for checking this video out, and I hope you enjoy it. So we're going to be in two different places in Scripture today. We're going to be in 2 Kings chapter 2, and we'll be in 1 Kings chapter 3. Kind of a strange title that you saw in the bulletin this morning. What do you want? So I'm going to ask some kids some questions. Kids, you ready? Mm-hmm. Ask Lindsay first. If you had, we'll just say, the genie in the lamp, you could have one wish. You could have anything in the world you ever wanted. What would it be? Anything. And I don't know if people can hear you. To go to heaven. Okay. She's trying to go the right direction with this. Molly, go over here. You could have anything in the world handed to you right now. What would you want? Yeah, think about this one. She's not so sure. We'll call on somebody else. Gracie, you were trying to hide behind your brother. What would you ask for? Anything in the world. A healthy hand? Ben had his hand up.
Brand new sled.
Brand new sled. That's cool. Any other kid want to weigh in on this one? Like maybe kids? What do you want, Jace?
Some kind of toy. I don't know.
What would you like? Anything in the world handed to you. Anything. Anything. It really stinks to be put on the spot like this. It's really difficult. Anybody in the back, any of you kids in the back want to wish for something? Chloe.
Peace.
Peace? Okay, that's a cool thing. Okay. A puppy. And actually, I was talking to Kate about this last night, some of the questions that the kids may answer, and that actually was one of them. A puppy or a kitten? I figured a kid was going to ask for that. A puppy or a kitten? Or Lindsay? I thought you were going to say $1 million. Lindsay likes her money, so I figured Lindsay was just going to say $1 million. But we're going to talk about two different people in the Bible that had that question posed to them. You can have anything. Just ask for it. And the story of these two people is going to be a little different. Kind of like it was last week, but two people a little bit different. We're going to put them together in the same sort of a way. Again, we're going to be starting in 2 Kings chapter 2, verses 6 through 14. We're going to make some comparisons back and forth of what did they ask for, why did they ask for it, and really wasn't the right decision to make when they asked for what they asked for. Like last week we talked about a guy named Elijah and a guy named Elisha. Sound a lot alike. Well, we're stuck with those two names again this week, so I will try to enunciate those two names. So we're talking about Elijah or Shah. So as we go into 2 Kings chapter 2, again, we're going to be in 6 through 14. Then Elijah said to him, speaking of Elisha, "Please stay here, for the Lord has sent me to the Jordan." But he said, "As the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." So the two of them went on. 50 men of the sons of the prophets also went and stood at some distance from them, as they both were standing by the Jordan. Then Elijah took his cloak and rolled it up and struck the water, and the water was parted to the one side and to the other, till the two of them could go over on dry ground. When they had crossed, Elijah said to Elisha, "Ask what I shall do for you before I am taken from you." So there's the question. What shall I do for you? Now remember, Elijah was like the main prophet of the time. He had a one-on-one dialogue going with God himself. When he prayed, he specifically got word back. When he called down fire from heaven, as he had just a few days prior to this, God sent down fire from heaven. Elijah was a very, very powerful prophet. And he is asking Elisha, as sort of a mentor type of thing, I'm going to be leaving. God has asked me to make you the next prophet. What would you like me to give to you? What can I do to help you? So we go back to the text. And Elisha said, "Please let there be a double portion of your spirit on me." We'll stop there again. Think about that. A double portion of your spirit on me. The Spirit of the Lord that was guiding Elisha is saying, give me a double part of that. And in a minute we're going to go into what that truly means, because there's more than the surface value of that double portion. There's more to it of what he's asking. But he asked for something that would truly help him going forward in his ministry as a prophet. Because if Elijah was such a solid man of God, such a solid prophet, if he was to receive a double portion of that, imagine what he would be able to do for the Lord. And as we go on a little further, and he said, speaking of Elijah, "You have asked a hard thing. Yet if you see me as I am being taken from you, it shall be so for you. But if you do not see me, it shall not be so." And as they still went on and talked, behold, the chariots of fire and horses of fire separated the two of them. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven, and Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariots of Israel and the horsemen." And he saw them no more. Let's go stop there again for a second. Now, just picture this. They're walking along. We talked about the cloak was something that only the prophet wore last week. He takes the cloak, whacks the water. The water of the Jordan River separates out. Jordan River is like trying to separate the waters of the St. Lawrence River here. Not an easy task. It's not something you're going to splash and run across. This is a major river. Opens wide up. They walk through on dry ground. They get to the other side. They carry on their conversation. They're walking along. What can I give you? What can I do for you? Elisha says, I want a double portion of your spirit. He is asking, and Elijah said, that is a big thing to ask. Because that's not something Elijah could grant. That's something only God himself could grant. This is a big thing to ask. Because Elijah can't control how much of the Lord's Spirit is put on one person or the next. He does not have that authority to do. He only does what God asks him to do. So he leaves it in God's hands. If you see me when I leave, then that means that God will give it to you. If you do not see me when I leave, you will not receive it. Simple. So here you are walking along with this guy, mentor, teacher, student sort of thing. You cross the Jordan River, you're kind of in the wilderness of an area. I don't know about any of you, but I've never seen a chariot and a horse of fire coming out of the sky, causing a massive whirlwind, picking up Elijah and going back up in the sky. I've never seen something like this. This is big. This is an amazing thing to see. I mean, imagine horses and chariots of fire coming out of the sky, picking up your teacher. Off he goes. So the thing now when Elisha said, well, I saw him leave. Holy God, was that amazing. I can't imagine what they were thinking at the time. So that means if he saw it, he would get the double portion. Now, was Elisha being greedy, saying, I want a double portion? Was he trying to do the wrong thing for the right reason? Or was there more to the story? If we think back of how a will worked back in those days, if someone was to pass away, the entire inheritance would be switched into 3 different segments. 3 portions. No matter how many kids you had, there was split into thirds. The oldest or the chosen would get 2/3 of it. The rest of everyone else would get 1/3. So if there's 20 kids, sorry about the other 19 of you, you're splitting a third while the oldest gets the 2/3. Some of the people here are the oldest siblings and say, cool, I get more. Some of us are like, oh, man. But we think about that. He was asking for a double portion of the Spirit. There's 2 guys standing there. You split it into thirds, 1 portion, 2 portions. He is asking God not only to give me twice what he's got, but he is asking God to put him in a place of preeminence, a place of authority over even what Elijah was. Elijah, an amazing prophet that could do amazing things. Not only do I want twice what he had of your Spirit, I also want a preeminent position above what he was. That man was bold. We talked last week about his boldness. When he was called into ministry, he sacrificed those oxen he was plowing with. He burnt those plows. He burnt that yoke to boil those oxen and gave it to everyone to eat, and he left. He was gone. He was bold. We're going to use that word a lot today. He was bold. This guy knew what he wanted. He wanted to serve the Lord, and he wanted to serve the Lord in the most outgoing, strong, bold, in-your-face type of a way that he could. He was even in God's face asking for, I want to be in the preeminent place over him. I want a double portion of his Spirit. I want to be your guy, God. I want to be the biggest and the best you ever called to do this. I want to do this for you. It wasn't him looking at himself and saying, I want to be something special. His heart was in the right place. His heart was in a place that I want to do for you, Lord. I want to give to you, Lord. And I know I can do this if you give me the necessary tools to make it happen. Very bold statement for someone who was just called into the ministry, had only been under Elijah a short amount of time, to be asking for this. A very, very, I know what I want, bold man. So then, here he stands by himself. The cloak, as we learn here in the next verse, the cloak didn't go with Elijah. The cloak was for the prophet. The cloak stayed behind. So go back to the text. Then he took hold of his own clothes and tore them in 2 pieces. And he took up the cloak of Elijah that had fallen from him and went back and stood on the bank of the Jordan. Then he took the cloak of Elijah that had fallen from him and struck the water, saying, Where is the Lord, the God of Elijah? And when he had struck the water was parted, to the one side and to the other. And Elisha went over. He's crying out, "Where is the God of Elijah?" That was kind of his battle cry. Imagine what he is feeling. In his boldness, he has been given everything he asked for. The cloak is laying there on the ground. It didn't go with Elijah. The fact that he saw him leave with the chariots of fire, the horses of fire, the amazing sight that must have been. And then to see that cloak sitting there and say, "You know what? I was just given everything I asked for. I was given what God wanted me to have, or he wouldn't have given it to me." Imagine that high he must have been feeling, the strength he must have been feeling. So he goes back to the Jordan River. He's got that cloak in his hand. He walks right up there, and I can picture in my mind, he smashed that water with it. "Where is the God of Elijah?" I'm psyched. I'm going. I'm going. I got to talk to people about this. I got to show people what God did for me. Imagine if we acted like that. Just a thought. Smacking that water. The water parted. He walked across. Side tangent. People know me and know that I read into things a little differently than some people. I actually found a little humor in this, if you think about it, and you actually think about what just happened in these last couple verses. Elisha picks up the cloak, tears his clothes in two, takes that cloak, and he smashes the water with it. As I'm reading this, my messed up brain kind of went down a different road. "Dude, put your clothes on." Think about it. He ripped his clothes in half. All he's got is a cloak. He's smacking the water in it. "Elijah, you're a weird dude." But I can really get behind your boldness. I can get behind how bold he was in asking for what he asked for. Did he ask for the right thing? Well, in future messages going down the road, we'll talk about Elijah and Elisha a little bit more. And we'll learn more about what he did and how he became an amazing prophet for the Lord. Because he asked with this boldness so that he could get what God already had for him. And how often when we're praying do we get this overwhelming feeling, God wants me to do this, and we just don't do it, or we don't go to the Lord with boldness and say, "You know what, Lord, I think you want me to do this. If you want me to do this, make it happen. Open the doors for me." Be bold like he was. If we read through the Psalms, a lot of people that have read through the Bible, if you read through the Psalms, how many times do you hear David crying out saying, "God, I'm not happy with this. God, you need to do this for me. You called me to do this. You need to help me. Because I can't do this by myself." And it seems like when we go through the Bible, the people that go to the Lord with humility, but with a boldness of, "Lord, I need you," those are the ones that are blessed because their heart is in the right place. If we ask for that $1 million, sorry, God's not going to bless Elisha. He says, "I want riches." Elijah, you can give me riches, right? I want riches. I want to be rich. He would not have been blessed by God by that. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to go back to 1 Kings chapter 3, verses 3 through 14. There's going to be another guy just faced with the same sort of a question, but instead of being given this from his mentor, God himself asks this man a question. "What can I give you?" So if you're there with me in 1 Kings chapter 3, verses 3 through 14, we're talking about King Solomon. King Solomon, we know a lot about. He's one of the key people in the Old Testament. But this is where it all started from him. He is the son of King David. King David was always considered the man after God's own heart. So Solomon, being his son, next to the throne, we start here in verse 3. Solomon loved the Lord walking in the statutes of David his father. Only he sacrificed and made offerings at the high places. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place. Solomon used to offer 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. At Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night. And God said, ask what I shall give you. We'll stop there again for a second. God himself in a dream comes to him. What shall I give you? It's one thing for Elisha to ask Elijah for something, but God himself is speaking to Solomon. What can I give you? The God that made the universe is now saying, what can I give to you? Imagine that question being asked. Verse 6. And Solomon said, you have shown great and steadfast love to your servant David, my father, because he walked before you in faithfulness, in righteousness, and in uprightness of heart toward you. And you have kept for him this great and steadfast love, and have given him a son to sit on the throne this day. And now, O Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of David my father. Although I am but a little child, I do not know how to go out or to come in. And your servant is in the midst of your people, whom you have chosen, a great people, too many to be numbered or counted for multitude. Give your servant, therefore, an understanding mind to govern your people, that I may discern between good and evil, for who is able to govern this, your great people? And we'll stop there for a second. Solomon was young. That's why I wanted to ask the kids, what do you want? If this was asked of you. Similarly, Solomon was put on the spot. In a dream, he's put on the spot. What can I give you? And for a few verses in there, you can see him kind of treading water. Oh God, you put me on the throne after my father David. You did this for me. You did, whoa. Wow, kind of treading water. In amazement. Oh, I don't even know. Just like the kids that were asked, were like, I don't know what I want. Imagine being put on that spot by God himself. What do you want? What can I give you? Imagine being in that position. So Solomon, the thing I love about this, he goes, I want the wisdom so that I can lead not my people, your people. So I can lead your people. So I can judge your people. Where was Solomon's heart at this point? It wasn't about, I want wisdom, I want knowledge because I need it. No. I need this for your people so that I can do my job you called me to do for your people. We got to think of where Solomon's heart was at this point. It was all about, Lord, what can I do for you and your people? You're asking me what I want to do for you. Equip me to do for you. Not equip me so that I can be a better person. We think about what this young king, what was his upbringing sort of thing? Where was his mind? If he had, like I really thought one of the kids was going to say, give me $1 million. He probably had $1 million. He's the king. He's young, but he's the king. He didn't need to ask for wealth. He's the king. All he's got to do is go off and tell the peasants, give me more money. That's all he had to do. He had wealth. He's asking for more knowledge. He's asking for more wisdom because he had a small amount already. If he's the king, there's a very strong likelihood he was well educated. He had enough understanding, he had enough knowledge to know that he needed a lot more. He was smart enough to realize he wasn't smart enough. He was good enough to know that he wasn't good enough. He understood what he truly needed to lead the people of God. And he knew with wisdom, everything else would come with it. If you're wise enough, you can get the rest. He was just smart enough to know what he needed. And his heart was in a great place. He was in a great place where he could ask for that wisdom. So in verse 10, we start back up again. It pleased the Lord that Solomon had asked this. And God said to him, because you have asked for this, and have not asked for yourself long life or riches, or the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself understanding to discern what is right. Behold, now I do according to your word. Behold, I give you a wise and discerning mind, so that none like you has ever been before you, and none like you shall ever arise after you. I give you also what you have not asked, both riches and honor, so that no other king shall compare with you all your days. And if you walk in my ways, keeping my statutes and my commandments, as your father David walked, then I will lengthen your days. And Solomon awoke, and behold, it was a dream. Let's think about that. God knew his heart. Because he knew his heart, he gave him that wisdom and knowledge he asked for. And he gave him everything he didn't ask for as well. Because he rewarded that right heart. That heart that only Solomon at that time had. He gave him that wisdom, but then he gave him all the fame, the notoriety, the riches. He had gold coming in by the ton. We may think an ounce of gold is something great. He had it coming in by the ton. There was no man richer. There was no man wiser. There was no kingdom stronger. And because of his wisdom, because of everything God gave him, he was the only king in the Old Testament that had peace. He's the only king that actually had peace and didn't have to go out to war constantly to defend his country. While Solomon was king, he was able to build the temple for God. He was able to do great things for God because God blessed him. God blessed him because of his heart, because of his attitude. He knew where Solomon's heart was. He knew the person Solomon would be. Now let's think about it, the fact that he had asked for riches, great riches. If any of us were just, give me a couple $1 million. You know the people who win the lottery, almost every one of them declares bankruptcy within 5 years? They don't have the wisdom that goes with money. They got the money, they don't have the wisdom. It's gone. It's gone in a hurry. They can't handle because they don't have the wisdom. The wise people seem to be the ones that know how to hang on to it, know how to handle it. They go through life a whole lot better. The wisdom, not necessarily education, but the wisdom. The wisdom is where it comes. The wisdom is what he needed for God's people. So these two guys, we think about it, they asked for the right things at the right time to do what they had to do for God. So now we think of this kind of as a wrap them up together sort of a thing. And I'll go the direction society goes with a lot of these things quite often. Okay, so they're good stories. They got the wisdom, they got the knowledge, they got the power. Well, what about me? I want something too. Society, you think about it, I want something too. Why isn't God offering this to me? I mean, any of you guys have God come up to you and say, hey, what do you want? And then we think back from a society thought standpoint of, all right, well, Solomon had all this wisdom, all this money. Where is it now? That wisdom's gone. That gold, it's gone. Elisha's cloak, it's gone. His knowledge, his power, it's gone. and we think about it in that negative thought of our society, if God gave me something great, it's going to be gone. Life's going to go on after each one of us is gone. So why didn't God ask me that question and make my life better like he did these two guys? Why can't I have that question? Why can't any of you just have that question asked to you? And wow, cool, thanks God for answering that question for me. But we think about the children's message today. God has asked us, and it kind of came into my mind a few days ago. He's asked us a few questions. It's up to us to answer them. Question number one. When I do go on from this world, just like Solomon did, just like Elisha did, not so much Elijah, you got to figure it out. He didn't have to die. Question number one, where do you want to spend your eternity? When you think about God giving an eternity to us with him, Solomon's goal is nothing. You think about all that, because we think of it from a materialistic standpoint. All those tons of gold that we would have on earth if we were like Solomon, it means nothing at the end. I know I told a joke here about a year ago that God changed the rules on getting into heaven. We always say you can't take it with you. He said, we let you take one thing with you. So this one rich man says, well, I'm going to take one thing with me. I'm going to take a suitcase full of gold. Because I got this, I'm going to take it to heaven. So he gets up the pearly gates. He's met up there by God himself. And he goes, so what'd you bring with you? He goes, I brought me a suitcase full of gold. Because I know that's going to do something. And an angel stood there and he starts laughing. He's like, why are you laughing? You brought pavement. Heaven's full of streets of gold. The guy brought a chunk of blacktop with him, in essence. What we think is valuable, what we think is so great, isn't really. What really made the difference, Elisha and Solomon both did the will and the work of God. And reason they are such an important person, each one of them in the Bible, is because of question number 2. Who do you want to take to heaven with you? Both of those men, because of the influence they had, there is a tremendous amount of people in heaven today because of them. So yeah, the gold is gone, the cloak is gone, they're gone. They're in heaven. Think of the amount of people that are there in heaven today because of what those two men do. So if God was to ask you the question, hey, where do you want to go? Question number 2. Another fairly easy one. Who do you want to take with you? We should want to take everybody we meet, right? Obviously family and friends. But it goes bigger than that. But the third question is the really hard one. What are you going to do about it? What, each one of us, individually or as a group, what are we going to do about it? If we want that person to go to heaven, if we want ourselves to go to heaven, are we willing to give up anything? Are we willing to give up our time? Are we willing to give up our pride in some cases and go and speak to those people? Are we willing to be like Elisha and be straight up bold and say, this is what I want and this is what I'm going to do to give? Are we going to be like that? God is asking these questions all of us. Do you want to live with me for eternity? Who do you want to bring with you, and what are you going to do about it? Are you willing to give up anything? Or are you willing to... Good job, Pastor. Have a nice day. Where does it end? Do we take that next step? Do we act like that person that is bold? What is that next step for us? Now, I want you to think about that. We're going to close in prayer, and then we're going to actually sing a song called Bold. But think about that. Are you willing to be bold for Him? Are you willing to give up that pride or that time for Him to be in heaven with him and bring others with you. Because that's why we are here on earth, is to bring others with us to him. We're all called to be here at this point in time together for that reason. So, I'm going to close in prayer. Let's think about that. Lord, I ask that you would give us the boldness that you laid on the heart of Elijah and Elisha. Give us the heart that you gave to both of those men and to Solomon. Give us that boldness, the strength, the wisdom to do it for you, not for us. It may be selfish of us to want to be there with you, but that's what you called us to do. It may be selfish of us to want our family and friends to be there with us, but it's a good selfishness. It's what drives us to bring others to you, Lord. Again, we just ask that you would give us that strength. Give us the attitude of doing for you, living for you, living for your people, not for ourselves, but for others, Lord. We thank you again for all that you do in this church and all that you do in the lives of all the people here as well, Lord. We just thank you so much for it, and we thank you in advance for the plans that you have for each one of us. And we just ask that you would guide us and direct us as you have placed this call upon us to go and to do, to make disciples of men, to make disciples of the earth. We thank you again for that calling. We thank you for what you mean to us here. And we ask everything in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen. So what did you get from today's message? From the text that we went into in 2 Kings and then in 1 Kings? Try again. So what did you get from today's message? What did you get from the scripture that we went into? Comment below. Let me know what you take home from some of these messages, from your day-to-day Bible reading. Let me know what your thoughts are on these two guys, the decisions they made. Elisha asking for that double portion. Solomon, in essence, asking for great wisdom, and God gave him everything else that went with it. Imagine being in either one of their positions, and then imagine the question we're being asked today. Those couple questions of, where do you want to be when you ultimately pass away? Who do you want to be there with you, and what are you going to do to make that all happen? Think about that within the next week. I hope that it may change your perspective a little bit on life and how you go through it. I want to thank you for sticking around to the end of the video, and as always, may God bless each and every one of you today.